Okay, so when the Attorney General of South Carolina, who no one has ever confused with Cato the Younger, it says he's going to file suit against the health care bill. By definition, we're going to say he could not be engaging in obstructionism because he's outside the legislative process.
He no longer has the capacity to obstruct the legislation because it's already been passed.
Okay.
Additionally, it is questionable whether or not he would have standing to bring forth suit, and how he would do so is still in question.
He is, however, representing loyal opposition because he is bringing suit to the court for this healthcare bill through the means that the Constitution has set forth for grievances and for redress when he believes that something unconstitutional has been passed up by the legislature. If he were not using these constitutional means, as some people have been using violence in order to present their opinions, this would not be loyal opposition.
Okay.
In your opening statement, you mentioned the Patriot Act. I'm wondering if you can expand on what you think is relevant about the Patriot Act to this question.
The Patriot Act is relevant in the sense that when it was originally passed, because we were in a time of national crisis, and because there was such an absence of a loyal opposition because something needed to be done urgently, it was passed without very many problems. Now, however, there has developed a loyal opposition that does not agree with the provisions of this act and is trying to have it removed.
After the fear of the threat of terrorism attacks have faded, the people now are realizing what expansive powers the USA Patriot Act gave the government, and they're now voicing their opposition to this act.
As Christine Miller once stated, war and fear bring with them government excesses, and this example is a perfect reflection of that statement.
All right. I'm going to ask you something and have you step back just a moment. Ponder this question. What relationship may exist among the concepts of limited government, checks and balances, and loyal opposition?
Limited government is the principle by which the government is limited by a higher law, namely a constitution, and this constitution can be either written or unwritten, as seen in the British tradition where it is unwritten, or in our system where we specifically wrote down the limitations on government so that it would be more accountable.
Besides the Constitution that holds the government accountable, checks and balances is the means by which the different branches of our government impose checks on each other to make sure that one does not gain too much power or have too much of a say in our government.
Thus, the loyal opposition checks the majority and makes sure that it stays attached to the fundamental principles of a democracy and represents all constituents.
What is built in the Constitution that would promote loyal opposition?
The system of checks and balances definitely helps promote the idea of a loyal opposition, because it is the idea that one branch will not become too strong. And specifically, the loyal opposition can be seen in the system of checks and balances when we are in the state of a divided government, when the president is part of one political party and the Congress is part of a different political party. Therefore, the majority in Congress would be a loyal opponent of the president's policies and vice versa.
Additionally,
Furthermore, the First Amendment's protection of speech and press and assembly also enhance loyal opposition because they give everyone the freedom to express their opinions without fear of governmental actions against them.
Additionally, Article 1, Section 6, which allows for protected speech on the floor of Congress, also exemplifies this fact that the people have the right to speak and present their opinions without fear of being punished for these opinions.
Okay. Does the Tea Party have any relevance to anything we're talking about today?
The Tea Party definitely has relevance to what we're talking about. The Tea Party as an institution is definitely loyal opposition, but it is the so-called or self-proclaimed Tea Party members and the fringe members that are not loyal opposition because they use violence and other methods that are not part of loyal opposition to get their messages across.
Those Tea Party members who do utilize their First Amendment rights of petition, speech, press, assembly, etc., in order to oppose the passage of this legislation, definitely would be the loyal opposition, because they are the minority viewpoint that's being expressed in order to keep the government accountable to the wishes of the people.
I just want to understand better your position on what is acting as the loyal opposition. You've used the Republicans' opposition to the health care bill as an example, and you noted that the opposition helped eliminate the public option. But the Republicans, if I'm not mistaken, continued to filibuster the bill after the public option was no longer on the table. So what more might you want to say about the Republicans' opposition to health care that, for you, solidifies your view that they were acting as a loyal opposition?
The Republicans were acting as the loyal opposition because although they did not manage to create a bill that they could agree upon and agree to vote on, their actions and their presenting the views of their constituents did allow for some degree of compromise when creating the bill, such as the removal of the public option. And it is this that allows for them to be loyal opposition, and the fact that while they were opposing the majority, they were still remaining true to the fundamental principles of our nation, and they were simply trying to provide the American people with what they believe would be best.
By definition, in Great Britain, the loyal opposition is the minority party, and specifically the minority party, although they don't have as much opportunity to necessarily impact directly the legislation in the form that it's made, because civil servants are actually the ones who draft the legislation and then it's passed by the parliament. The loyal opposition in our government today, with the passage of the healthcare legislation, was actually much closer to the British form of loyal opposition, because the minority party in Great Britain takes a staunch stance and holds by their party line, specifically because if members of the minority party in Great Britain cross the aisle, then it could either lead to a change in government, or moreover, it leads more likely to them not being put in those positions.